It's Carlson here, and we're getting started with another live stream. Back to Saturday now. Fortunately, I didn't have to do anything this Saturday, so back on the regular schedule. So let's go ahead and get started. Once again, we're going to be reading an issue of Game Informer. This time it's issue 171. There's the back cover. It has an ad for Helio. I remember that was like a big, phone system back in the day. On the cover here we have, Fallout 3. I don't think I've ever actually played a Fallout game before. And then we have a blurb at the top advertising the Rock Band series of games, which would have been brand new at the time. This would have been around the time they probably had like 2 Guitar Hero games out, and the rhythm games were really starting to become a big thing. Also, just fair warning, I still have a pretty sore throat, so don't be surprised if I'm going for the water a few times during this video. Anyway, I haven't opened this magazine in probably almost 20 years, so let's see what's inside. There's an ad here for a game called Darkness. Looks like this was on the PS3 and the Xbox back in the day. Not familiar with that particular game. Got a 2-page spread here for Ninja Gaiden Sigma. This, of course, is after they revived the Ninja Gaiden brand, and those were pretty popular games. Got another 2-page here. This is for a Tom Clancy Rainbow Six game. Looks like this is even set in Vegas. And of course, I live here in Vegas, so anytime I see something like that, that's always pretty cool. Here they got an ad for a game called Dirt. Looks like a racing game. Here we have the table of contents, and there's also an ad for Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, which they have on multiple consoles. Every time there's a movie, there's always movie tie-in games of mixed quality. I never played any of those Pirates games, so I can't say for sure. Here's a Microsoft ad that takes up 2 pages. A list of the staff here. And then there's an ad for a Shadowrun game. One thing I think I mentioned in the last video, I'm kind of surprised there's no females on the staff here. About 20 years later, that probably wouldn't fly at all. Yeah, GI Spy, candid photos from the seedy underbelly of the video game industry. I'm guessing that's more of a goofy, sarcastic name. And then there's an ad for a Jam Sessions game on here on the other side. Again, this is after the whole rhythm game boom started, so everyone's trying to cash in on that. They've got some letters from fans here, and then they have, the GI community. They ask like how important character customization and things like that are in games, and then talking about needing to make some good 3D Sonic games. Mortal Kombat Armageddon's character creation feature, and you got an ad over here for a Scarface game as well. There's an ad for a freestyle basketball game here, and then there's also, we have a reader art section. Nintendo Power always used to do something similar as well. And again, I'm not as familiar with Game Informer as I am Nintendo Power, as you probably learned from my old things that I've done on here. Okay, you got an ad here for StarCraft 2. Yeah, alternate reality gaming. Got some other sections on here. This alternate reality gaming can continue. Not totally sure what that's all about. I might have to sit down and read that article and even see if it's still relevant. That article ends here, but then there's also an ad on the other page for Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. Interestingly, the Fantastic Four are finally being rebooted into the proper Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that movie's going to come out this year. There's some more game ads here. They got an ad for Guitar Hero Rocks the 80s. And on this side, they got an ad for the Bowflex home gym system. So the ads in Game Informer are a little more diverse than the ones in Nintendo Power because they're generally not limited to games. Can drama be a game genre? And there's a pro and con section here. And then there's an ad on the other side for a baseball game. Yeah, Sony shows off upcoming slate. So here's a look at some upcoming games from Sony. Hour of Victory. Looks like this is like a first-person shooter set in a war environment. Yeah, Gears of War sharpshooter. There's an ad for a site called Jamster here. I'm guessing that site's probably not in existence anymore because the entertainment world's changed so much, but you never know. Changing the game. 3D Realms bets big on new IP. They got to look at some older games here, including like Scuba Venture, Max Payne, and the original Wolfenstein 3D. That game, of course, being the precursor to Doom back in the day. Yeah, Earth No More, Disaster Done Right. Another game I'm not familiar with, but certainly curious after seeing this spread. So, there's an ad here for Ballpark Franks, and then there's a good, the bad, and the ugly section, plus a contest to win a Nintendo DS. Yeah, Phil Harrison, President of Worldwide Studios, Sony Computer Entertainment. They always like to interview people in the game industry, so another one of those. Yeah, we believe the PS2 has a very few strong years ahead of it. It's by no means a surprise to us. So they're still making PS2 games after the PS3 had come out. I think the PS3 had been out for about a year when this issue came out. Sound Off, Battle of the Speaker Systems. Then there's ads for some other stuff here, including an animated Hellboy movie and a Star Wars Pocket Model card game. I know they've done a lot of card games and miniature games with Star Wars over the years. Yeah, new controllers are opening the horizons of game design. They got a little like the Wii remote here. Then there's a Connect calendar on the other side as well. Here we get into that Fallout 3 article that was mentioned on the cover. Continued on this page. Continued here, got some really great screenshots. So these will probably more Fallout. More Fallout, you got that little cartoon character guy in the bottom corner there. Here we get into the ad for Rock Band, the rhythm game, which would have been brand new at the time, or probably still upcoming. They got pictures of the peripherals here. More screenshots here as to Rock Band. Look at some of the other instruments, playable characters, and in-game graphics. There's an ad here for a Chronicles of Riddick game. I didn't know they made any Riddick games, so that's interesting. Tom Clancy's End War. I know that Tom Clancy games were a pretty big deal for a while there. I mean, he's obviously since passed away. I'm not sure if they're still making the games that carry his name or not. Yeah. Try to Gotham Racing 4. Here's previews for Fracture and God of War Chains of Olympus. Next page, we got Tony Hawk's Proving Ground. Of course, the Tony Hawk games have always been pretty popular, and even when they fizzle out, they always have revivals. I mean, I played the remake of Tony Hawk 1 and 2 on the Switch to death. And there's an ad here for another game that's simply entitled Skate. So skate games are obviously something still very seriously considered at the time. They got an ad for a wrestling game, WWE SmackDown vs. Raw 2008. They got a Rayman game. And there's another game in the Katamari series where you roll around in a ball and try to accumulate a lot of junk to make your ball bigger. Okay, there's really no non-dirty way to say that. All-Pro Football 2K8, Madden NFL 8, and John Madden, of course, he's died too, but they're still making John Madden football games. Okay, so we got a few more people that have just tuned in, so if you're just tuning in, thanks for watching. Trying to go back in time to the old days of gaming, and I might see if I can get my hands on some more Nintendo powers over the next few weeks as well. Got some sports games here, including an NCAA football game, a FIFA soccer game, and there's a zombie game over here, Left 4 Dead. And I won't lie, even though I'm a fairly big gamer, a lot of this stuff I actually have never played before. So here we got, Time Crisis 4. I remember I killed a lot of time back in the day in the arcades playing those Time Crisis games. Yeah, Sort of the New World, that I don't know. Yeah, Blazing Angels 2. Excuse me. But it's like Blazing Angels. This is like a World War II dogfighting game. I love pretty much anything that has to do with airplanes, so I'm gonna have to look into that series as well. Here we get more previews. Devil May Cry 4, Silent Hill Origins, Ghost Squad, with Ghost Squad being a Wii game. So the Wii only would have been out in America for probably, less than a year when this magazine came out. I remember I had to actually stand in line outside of a store to get my Wii because the pre-order that I did ended up falling through. And I had a lot of good times with that system. I certainly miss it, although I do love my Switch as well. Yeah, Photo File. Mini previews with big pictures. Yeah, things like Universe at War, Life Science Surgical Unit, The Typing of the Dead. Not the House of the Dead, The Typing of the Dead. Okay, you got reviews here. Got an ad for a game called Odin Sphere. Looks like an anime-style RPG. There's something called, Lord of the Rings Online: Shadows of Angmar. They've made a lot of Lord of the Rings games over the years, largely as tie-ins to the feature films that Peter Jackson made. Can't believe those Peter Jackson films are over 20 years old now. I feel really old. There's an ad for the Spider-Man 3 game. It got an 8 out of 10. That's a pretty good score. I remember my ex-girlfriend actually had a PlayStation 3 before me, and I actually bought her that game because I found the special edition pretty cheap used and got that for her, and I remember playing that to death back in the day. And then there's an ad for the Honda Civic on the other side. I mean, it's kind of funny seeing car ads in video game magazines because when I was a kid, obviously, I wasn't even thinking about car ownership. I mean, if they really want to put out a good Honda advertisement, they should really capitalize on that Simpsons episode where Nelson steals the H off Superintendent Chalmers' car. Anyone remember that? Those were good times. Here we have more reviews. We got The Bigs, which is a Major League Baseball game, Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, Ninja Gaiden Sigma, and MLB 07 The Show, another baseball game. Here's a review for that Odin Sphere game that we saw earlier here. And it says 2D combat. And there's, that got an 8.5. Oh, Chris is chiming in. Hey there. Hey back, Chris. Hope you and Debbie are doing good. And then here we got, reviews for, there's a dot hack game. It only got a 5.75. How are things going? Things are going very good. And then we have Tony Hawk's Downhill Jam. That only got a 4. Which is crazy given how revered those Tony Hawk games often are. And then over here we got Tomb Raider Anniversary. Funny thing about Tomb Raider, I've seen all the features. Did you get a haircut? Yes, I did. Thank you for noticing. But yeah, Tomb Raider. Funny thing about that series, I've seen the movies that they've made, including the old ones with Angelina Jolie and the newer one with Alicia Vikander. Hope I'm pronouncing that name right. And they're decent movies, but I don't think I've ever actually played one of the games before, which is kind of, you feeling better, Chris asks here. Throat's still a little sore, and going to a concert last night certainly didn't help things any, but I would say I'm on the mend. They got an ad here for a Hot Shots tennis game that got an 8.25 out of 10. I know they're best known for doing Hot Shots golf. I didn't realize they also made a tennis game, so that's pretty cool. Resident Evil 4, this got a 9.5. Resident Evil's always been a pretty critically revered series. I mean, my good friend Lynn, who I talk about a lot on my Battle Jacket Kid show on this channel, he actually named some of his cats after Resident Evil characters. He had a cat named Claire, and he had a cat named Ada. How is your weather? Weather's actually really nice. I don't see any clouds in the sky. It's pretty sunny. A little cold outside, but not bad. I mean, this beats the alternative of being back east where they get bombarded with blizzards and inclement weather constantly. Mario Party 8, that got a 7.25. The second opinion only gave it a 6.5. Funny thing, again, I love Mario. I played tons of Mario games. Don't think I've ever played a single Mario Party game. There's a game called Mercury Meltdown Revolution that gets a 6.5 or 7.5 from the second opinion reviewer. Spider-Man 3 only gets a 6.5, 6.25 from the second opinion. So the headline humorously reads, "Flush this spider down the toilet." If you really need a Spider-Man fix, go find a cheap copy of the GameCube Spider-Man 2 and save some money. The Spider-Man 2 game that was on the PS2 and the GameCube, that was a really good game. I wish they'd reissue that, but I know the rights with anything Marvel related are always kind of complicated. Would be nice if we get like a Spider-Man collection. What movies are them next to you? Those are just some things I'm going to be reviewing soon. I got, Rocky Collection, The Last Emperor, Alphaville, Rock and Roll High School, Nintendo 64 Quest. This is actually a series directed by my buddy Rob McCallum. He directed the original Nintendo Quest as well as the Action Figure Adventure series, the Power of Grayskull He-Man documentary series, and then he also did a documentary called Missing Mom, which is really good as well. But this guy's a great filmmaker. Definitely support this guy because he's the best at what he does. And then I've also got the steelbook of the Halloween trilogy, the more recent David Gordon Green trilogy. So I'm going to be recording reviews for these for my YouTube channel when I get done with this live stream. There's also a game here. Don't you already have the Rocky steelbooks? I did, but I sold those to my friend because the Rocky movies are like his favorite movies of all time. And we have a game here called Call of Juarez. Juarez is a place in Mexico. I remember it gets name dropped in some old Johnny Cash song. So this looks like it's something probably along the lines of the Red Dead series. Again, neither one is a series I'm really familiar with outside of knowing the basics. Here we got a review for Forza Motorsport 2. That got a pretty good review. Lord of the Rings Online, Shadows of Ingmar. That got an 8.5. And the second opinion for the Forza game gave it a 9.25. So, you don't like the steelbooks or what? Oh, I love the steelbooks, but they're my friend's favorite movies. He wanted them, and I could sell them to him, so that actually made more sense at the time. Not to mention, if you get the steelbooks, you don't get the bonus disc that's in there in the box set. Okay, there's a Parappa the Rapper game here. I'm guessing this might, PSP, so this might be like a PSP reissue of the original PS1 game, or PSX as we call it back in the day. Yeah, Driver 76, Innocent Life, a futuristic Harvest Moon, and some handheld quickies, Final Fantasy Anniversary Edition, Dynasty Warriors DS. You authorized, you sold them, you paid a lot for them. Well, not really any more than you paid for the box set, and I'm getting money from my buddy anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, then you got SNK versus Capcom Card Fighters DS. I remember there was a time where those card battling games were all the rage. Okay, and then we come to the charts of the best-selling games. Number one best-selling game in the top 20 here is Pokemon Diamond. And then, of course, in the number 2 slot was its counterpart, Pokemon Pearl. Then you have Super Paper Mario, We Play, Guitar Hero 2. There's also a reviews archive here, and there's an ad for Collins College. Looks like this is a game design college. Yeah, Bachelor's of Arts degree in Visual Arts, Game Design, Film and Video Production. I know a lot of the gaming magazines were really trying to push gaming education back in the day. Like I know Nintendo Power always tried to push a school called DigiPen that was up in the Washington State area, not far from Nintendo Power's offices. And there's an ad for UAT, University of Advancing Technology, so more of that as well. Yeah, Secret Access. These are just like some cheats and secrets for games. I think I said this in the last video. Nintendo Power had a similar column in their magazine called Classified Information. So here's a look at that, plus that game design school ad. Okay, video game Gridiron's Greatest Moments. So this is like a featurette on football games. So you got like Atari here. You got some stuff going to the NES. You got Tecmo Bowl. There's an Intellivision football game. You know, TV sports football. They got to look at the John Madden series, which, again, even though John Madden has passed away, that series still comes out. I think they put one out every year, don't they? And then they got, you know, this month in gaming history. They got a picture of the original Final Fantasy. You still collect steelbooks. I just buy what's available, basically. Here's a look at all this. I'm not really a sports fan, but I'm certainly a video game fan. So I always like looking at gaming history, but it's not necessarily the games that I'm the biggest fan of. Okay, classic GI retro reviews. We got Super Mario 64, Star Wars TIE Fighter, Resident Evil 2, and then there's some online launch stuff over here. There's a look at the Game Informer online magazine. They have a section here called Game Over, and this is video game trivia, like right here. One of the first questions they ask is, many fans recall Mega Man 2 as one of the high points in the long-running franchise. This little robot hero of the game had a lot of weapons at his disposal in that installment, but which of these wasn't an option until a later game in the series? And the options are Metal Blade, Gemini Laser, Quick Boomerang, Leaf Shield. Anybody watching the video know the answer to that question, just out of curiosity? I might go through and ask a few of these, just see if anyone wants to chime in and see if they know the answers. But I will, I used to own that magazine, our friend Chris here says. Yeah, Game Informer is the magazine that I believe this is the magazine that GameStop members get. So I think I had this magazine on like 2 separate occasions. And then the answer to that first question, of course, was the Gemini Laser, which is in Mega Man 3. And then let's see here. Yeah, Super Mario Brothers 2 had a hard time growing up. It tended to get beat up a lot after school, and it never managed to kiss a girl, but still had some pretty sweet enemies. Which one of these enemies didn't show up for the first time in that game? And the options are Bomb, Shy Guy, Tweeter, and Chain Chomp. Which one of those enemies was not in Super Mario Brothers 2? Looks like we got like 4 people watching right now. Does anybody know the answer to that question? I mean, feel free to type the answer if you think you know it. Okay, I'm not really seeing a lot of replies or activity there, but just the same, thank you to everyone that is watching. That, of course, would be Chain Chomp, because Chain Chomp premiered in Mario 3. Then the last question they ask is, have you ever played Beyond Good or Evil? And the choices are, yes, that game rules, or no, I have shamed myself, my father, and my father's father. I like that the guys that made this magazine had a sense of humor. Always a good thing, keeps things lighthearted. There's an ad for a Dungeons & Dragons tactics game on this side of the wall. Yeah, the Dungeons & Dragons name, that's been a big deal for, like 50 years. I mean, they just made a new Dungeons & Dragons movie last year. The tabletop game is still popular. I mean, I go into like board and tabletop game stores, and those places are always still crowded. And that's just one of those brands that I think is always going to live on in some shape or form, even after we're all long gone. Okay, that brings us to the end of the July 2007 issue of Game Informer, issue 171. So here's a preview of the magazine that I'll do for the next live stream. This is issue 172, August 2007. So just look at the cover. There's an ad on the back for, of all things, Old Spice deodorant. Over 35 pages of must-read previews. Yeah, Prototype, not a game I'm familiar with. But up here, there's an ad that says Darksiders, Zelda meets God of War in this post-apocalyptic epic. If I could learn how to talk, that would be nice. I was about to say, isn't Darksiders that Capcom fighting game that has the succubus, the mummy guy, and the naked cat girl? But that's Darkstalkers. So, glad I caught myself there and prevented myself from making a fool of myself. So anyway, this is what we're going to look at next week. A great big thank you to everyone that tuned in. Yeah, Prototype was awesome. Okay, thanks, CC Trout. Thank you for chiming in. I've never even heard of that game, let alone played it, so that's something I'm going to have to look up here in the future. I mean, Do you know if that was a one-and-done game or if it was like part of an ongoing series? Because one thing you'll notice when I'm doing these magazine reads, there's a lot of stuff that I still need to research that I might have missed the first time around, and that's certainly going to be on the list. So we'll be looking at that magazine on next Saturday's live stream, maybe get a little more into that. So before I end the live stream and go back to recording some videos I have to edit later, does anyone have any parting shots, anything else they'd like to add? There are 2 prototype games. Okay. Thank you so much for the info. I mean, this is not something I was familiar with, and any information you have is certainly very much appreciated. Any other parting shots, last-minute things you'd like to add? What were like your favorite gaming mags? Feel free to comment down below. This video is live right now, but it'll be available for later viewing if it's something you want to come check out again, or if maybe you missed it the first time around. Anyway, thanks so much to those of you that tuned in. Very much appreciated. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'm always adding new videos. Usually I do a lot of movie review and unboxings. I also occasionally do like ranking lists, video game reviews, music reviews and unboxings. I try to keep pretty busy on this channel, and I've been doing this for coming up on 6 years now. Trying to reach the point where I can eventually monetize, but of course, there's so much competition these days, so that's not exactly easy. Anyway, thanks so much to everyone that tuned in. I'm going to end the stream at this time. This has been Taylor T. Carlson. Thank you so much for tuning in.